Friends of Freedom. I am Dr. Tony Huge, and we are here to crush ignorance and pioneer human evolution.
This is a sport. You want to try to be the best you can be at it. There's a smart way to do it where you can limit a lot of these things, but you can't limit them all, and you are going to pay it. There's positives in bodybuilding that are really great, like discipline, hard work. The bodybuilding we love and we watch and we admire, that's a great way to kill yourself. So I got a bad infection in my glutes, and this kept getting worse and worse and more painful, and they needed to operate on me. But it kept spreading, and so they kept going back, got to take some more. And then there were like tunnels they dug. It just felt like they couldn't get it under control. It was spreading, it was all ruined. I knew it was gonna be a long road out of there. It was scary.
The most recent data said that the world population incidence of anabolic steroid use, 1 to 5%. Men come in with heart disease, kidney disease. Despite a sober warning, they continue despite understanding that there's going to be more consequences.
So about 50%, I would say, of my patients who have muscle dysmorphia have used steroids. Steroids are a very accessible way for a lot of men with muscle dysmorphia to achieve what they're looking for, and at the same time, it never works. Like, it never actually helps them. If anything, now it's just raised the bar for them. There's a whole bevy of research showing that there are a lot of adverse medical consequences.
There are guys that are taking drugs, hurting themselves. I see it in their organs, and not to mention they shut off their own natural production of testosterone, and they feel horrible. So the drugs lead to more and more, and they're gonna all think that next month I'm gonna come off. And they don't. No one comes off anymore.
I love steroids, but I mean, I've built my career around them. Used the right way, we've seen great things happen in sports. We've seen football players get bigger and stronger and faster than ever. We've seen baseball players hit far more home runs. Sports get more exciting because of performance enhancing. I think that there should be medical supervision. Realistically, when done the right way, most of the hormones that you'll see as far as performance enhancing are safe and effective.
I kind of realized that you have to go and do the gnarly steroids, and that's when I started thinking, like, this isn't what I want to do. It was all new to me. It's like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to take all this stuff and ruin my body.
I'm not anti-steroid, but let's be realistic. When you take steroids, you're not giving a shit about health. You give a shit about getting fucking jacked. That's why you take steroids. Because if you gave a shit about health, you would do it naturally. Nobody wants to do it naturally either because they don't want to fucking take the time it takes. It's a different animal when you're really jacked and you're on steroids. It's pay me now or pay me later. You pay later, that's all.
We like to go to the circus. And if you're gonna look at bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, not gonna get the views and the clicks and the likes of looking at this superhuman.
I think there are just some guys that, hey, you're born for this. But there are also many, and the majority of us that are chasing a dream that they think they're gonna look like the guy on the Olympia stage and they're gonna be the guy. No one wants to admit that, and I didn't want to admit that, so you take more drugs and you try more things and you think you can overcome that. This game a lot of it is, if you want to be the best, it's genetics. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of unhealthy steps that go into looking that way, and unfortunately, it's why we've seen a lot of very popular bodybuilders die.
I had a dream. I want to be the best bodybuilder I can be. You got to do steroids. If you're in bodybuilding, that's a given. I would argue steroids at that point started off as, I just want to be better at the sport. I want to be competitive. I think there's a way to do it where you limit the risks. But as a young guy, don't forget, you got to understand what you're getting into. There is a price to pay. You are going to damage your body to some degree. You're going to have to break the law. I was okay with that. Bigorexia really takes the fun out of bodybuilding. It was also an inability to enjoy the hard work and the results. The whole time I'm looking at it like, this isn't enough. You're not that good. You could do better. So it's really kind of a depressing thing that just kind of ruins all this. You're doing all this hard work and it's like, can't you let go and enjoy it a little bit.
These men feel terrible. I have them. They feel they break down crying in front of me. They feel empty, useless. You're taking drugs. You're trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. That's bigorexia.
Synthol is, I think, one of the most dangerous things that people can use. There was a research paper that came out, and they took a bodybuilder who had used Synthol all over, and they x-rayed him, they took scans, and it looked horrible. It looked like death waiting to happen. When you saw the internal damage that it had caused, the connective tissue damage, it was unbelievable. It can be dangerous, and I think in some cases fatal.
There's a bunch of guys that want to get bigger simply to move more weight, and there's guys that simply want to get bigger because they want to look better and they want to get chicks. Anytime I see somebody using Synthol, all my respect for them goes out the window. They're looking to get the shortcut to get there. They're looking to get there in an easy, quick way. If you really tell people what it takes to put on solid muscle mass and maintain that over a long period of time, they won't want to do it. People want quick fixes. You know, that stuff's not necessarily healthy, so you can run into a lot of issues.
They're actually smaller now. The effect now is right out of Hollywood. Really lean and mean and ripped, not big and puffy.
I remember when the movie Fight Club came out, these were lean, cut guys. They were not big and jacked and muscular. A lot of the younger people I see, they want to have the six-pack. They want to have the definition. They want to be able to have a lot of cuts and striations that really show off their muscularity. So I still see the muscle dysmorphia, but it takes on a different form now, where it's not, I need to be the biggest guy in the room. It might be, I need to be the cuttest guy in the room.
I think, in a way, social media has changed the game in both good ways and bad ways. You can go online, you can learn almost anything. You can figure out anything. You can figure out how to get in shape. You can figure out how to eat. But the other thing is that when you look at all these people, like, are you less than? You know, are you not as good as? Do you not have the fancy car? Do you not have the 20 chicks that you're lifting over your head like Bradley Martin? You know, like, those are the things that we look at and we're like, shit, man. Like, every time I look at somebody like Bradley Martin's Instagram, I'm like, I'm not that jacked and I'm not that good looking. Shit.
Do you think bigorexia can be positive for some people?
I think anything that comes into your life as a negative can always be used as a positive. So I think if you have bigorexia and it's something that you're trying to fix, I think as long as you're kind of aware of it, I think it could be very helpful.
I think it's negative. I think bigorexia is negative. If you're not comfortable with how you look in the mirror, there's a problem. No one's truly satisfied. I can tell you I still look in the mirror now and I'm not truly satisfied with how I look. But it goes beyond all bigger arms or this and that. I don't really, like I said, I'm not looking for size. I'm just looking for better balance and leaner, leaner, muscular look.
Female bodybuilders, I hang out with a lot of them and I'm friends with them and I love them. Do I find them attractive? No. I think it's a little bit much because it's obvious you're taking male hormone in a female body. Like, I don't find that attractive, but again, who am I to tell her not to do that?
Maybe for those female bodybuilders, they're so internally driven and they have a perception of what they want to be that they don't need external validation for it. They might have a goal, I want to gain muscle, and it doesn't matter, and I'm going to focus on the process day to day to reach that. Maybe female bodybuilders who are on stage, maybe they're trying to get attention like the guy who's using Synthol. You know, it's a different mechanism, but maybe that's a way for them to be different and stand out.
One of the studies that had looked at a sample of women with bigorexia found a very high prevalence of trauma, of rape or sexual assault in these women's backgrounds. And the idea of them building a very strong body was a defense to any kind of assault.
So women that have bigorexia, there are women that are using steroids and they're using performance-enhancing drugs. They get cosmetic health consequences. I mean, they lose their hair, their face structure changes, and they get ridiculed by people for that. They lose their female body structure and getting what will be called, the early boy body, where their hips are lost.
Every woman wants to stay feminine. Building muscle for a woman is not as easy as it is for a guy. And then, women have to reach to different methods to get muscle. But that takes away then from the femininity, because if you take certain things, your facial structure changes. The more muscle you build too, you know, the harder it is to come down again, and it just becomes harder and harder the bigger you get.
How does bigorexia affect self-image?
I've asked men about this that have it. It's unsatiable.
I wasn't confident. Even though I look like a model, I stopped bodybuilding because I didn't see what I was. I feel it's people not seeing who they are. They're just not seeing it. So I feel like it's people not having validation for themselves from other people maybe around them that they need, like support. I never took my shirt off, ever. I wore bigger shirts, didn't really show the gains. I was fighting a demon. And what I did was, I was like, I'm just gonna show my physique that I'm the best. I started ripping my shirt off every video, and I said, I don't care. And I wanted to prove to everyone that I don't care.
The best quote I got on Bigger, Stronger, Faster was Christian Boving. He said, all bodybuilders are little kids in gorilla suits. And he said that because all of us have been hurt. All of us have been, kicked when we're down or stepped on, and treated like shit. And basically, we try to battle that by getting as big as we possibly can.
If somebody goes and puts that much synthol in their arms, I think it has to be, unless they're completely insane, it has to be known that this doesn't look good and that it's just, I want people to look at me.
What happens is they use a little bit and they get a little bit of results and they get compliments on it, or they get acceptance, and they want more of that. And they figure the more synthol they use, the more they enhance whatever body part they're getting complimented on, the more love that they'll get. It crosses a certain point where it actually goes the other way, where they start to look ridiculous, and they still are chasing more love and injecting more.
Who the fuck is anybody to say anything about what somebody wants to look like? If some guy wants to fucking shoot synthol, I think it's dangerous. It's not bodybuilding. If this guy's happy doing that, it's not fair for me to say he shouldn't be doing that. I masturbated to attention. I loved it, it got me hard. And guys would mush their girlfriend. Their girlfriend's all hot and shit, and every guy's looking at the girl. And meanwhile, her boyfriend's staring at me like a fucking, and he mushes his girlfriend aside just to come up to me. Dude, what are you taking, bro? Chris Bell said to me, but that's attention from guys. I said, you don't understand. No, it's not. It's attention from everybody. Because even the girl, her man is fucking kissing my fucking ass. And that bigorexia shit kicks in and you're loving it. So the attention goes with it. That feeds the bigorexia.
I definitely think that there's a large percentage of people that compete that are definitely, they're addicted to some level of attention, whether it be from insecurities and it's making them feel better, or just a desire to be in the spotlight. So there's a certain level of the desire to be needed for people to love you or want you or to be in that spotlight for sure.
That's bigorexia. That means you got this condition where you gotta fucking be bigger than everybody else. You want that attention. You gotta have an ego for that. It's all ego driven. It's all this need to be fucking the biggest guy in the classroom. That's the greatest compliment you can tell a bodybuilder. Dude, you look a little more jacked. That stokes your ego and shit, It gives you big erection instead of bigorexia.
And they're kept out of sight until someone like Rich drops dead.
The blood flow that these bodybuilders got going on, the heart is pumping like a motherfucker to sustain that kind of body weight and that amount of muscle. Rich Piana knew that. That's why he was talking about bringing his fucking weight down. He didn't get a chance to do it. So you put yourself at risk when you get that jacked. You're gonna pay the price. You don't recover from that shit. And there ain't no insurances. There's no fucking benefits. But you know what? I'd rather be big. I don't give a shit. I'll die huge. I guarantee if you dug up Rich Piana and said, would you like to still be alive? You gotta sacrifice that shit. He would.